Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. The Wendell family has an eccentric and reclusive New York real estate dynasty in the 19th and early 20th centuries. They wore outdated Victorian clothing and refused to install modern utilities. Ella, the last surviving sibling, was famous for her many poodles, all named Toby. In 1946, Sadao Monomori became the first American of Japanese descent to be awarded the Medal of Honor, though posthumously. After boxes of booster packs containing unreleased Magic the Gathering cards were opened online, the publisher Wizards of the Coast sent Pinkerton agents to the home of the presenter to retrieve them. They confiscated 22 boxes after a confrontation that reportedly made the presenter's wife cry. Cane toad racing is a common cultural occurrence in Australia. They now even do it to celebrate their patriotic holiday, Australia Day. The Deer Hunter pioneered prestige pictures, where the films would only be screened at the end of the year to qualify for Academy Award recognition. Then they would have a full-scale release after the nominations. Margaret Fleming from 1980 to 2000 had learning difficulties and was offed by her carers Edward Cairney and Avril Jones. She had not been seen in 17 years before her disappearance was investigated. Cairney and Jones were convicted in 2019 and her body was never found. Craig Ferguson and Peter Capaldi from Doctor Who were once in a punk band together. William Howard Taft served as Chief Justice of the United States a few years after serving as president. He's the only person to have held both offices. Mary Firth from 1584 to 1659, alias Moll Cutpurse, was a notorious London pickpocket and fence. Defying gender roles, she dressed in men's clothing, moved in criminal circles, and became a legendary figure in the 17th century underworld. A man named Phineas Gage lived for 11 years after having a large iron rod driven through his skull in an accident involving explosives. Walt Disney was the first voice actor for Mickey Mouse from 1928 to 1947. A 12.57 kilogram or 27.7 pound meteorite called the Peekskill meteorite hit a car in Peekskill, New York in 1992. It hit a 1980 red Chevrolet Malibu and barely missed the gas tank. The car was owned by a 17-year-old girl named Michelle Knapp, who heard the crash from inside her house. Yeah, try to explain that one to the insurance company. Catalina de las Rias y Lisperguer from 1604 to 1665, called La Quintrella for her red hair, was a wealthy Chilean landowner known for her beauty and alleged cruelty. Accused of offing people and abuse, she became a mythic figure in Chilean history and folklore. Arkham House, the publishing company August Derleth founded in 1939 to publish Lovecraft's work and release the first book of Ray Bradbury's, did not turn a profit a single year prior to 1970. Looking at flowers reduces blood pressure and cortisol levels. Giampietro Campana amassed one of the largest collections of art and antiquities during the 19th century. He lost it all after it was discovered that he was embezzling from public funds. He was exiled and his collection was seized by the Papal States and sold off to museums. In 1860, a Frenchman named Antoine de Tunes went to the Araucania region, proclaimed the kingdom of Araucania and Patagonia, and became its first and only king. The country only lasted 2 years as the Chilean authorities occupied the country and arrested him. The Carrollwood Pacific Railroad, Walt Disney's famous backyard railroad, was operational for only 3 years. On the book cover of Hanya Yanagihara's A Little Life is a man, finishing, not crying. The cover image is Orgasmic Man by Peter Hujar, which depicts sexual ecstasy and male vulnerability. US flamethrower units had up to a 92% casualty rate on Iwo Jima, leaving few troops trained to use the weapon. In Japan, it's a common practice among married couples for the woman to fully control the couple's finances. The husbands hand over their monthly pay and receive an allowance from their wives. In 1950, the actor Peter Butterworth, after becoming a POW during World War II, was rejected from playing a part in the film The Wooden Horse. It was about a real escape that he helped take place because he didn't look convincingly heroic or athletic enough. The Beatles, as we know them today, were only together for 8 years from 1962 to 1970. In this time, they released a staggering 13 studio albums totaling 213 songs, with over 100 more being released since their breakup. There's a film called Logistics. At 51,420 minutes or 857 hours or 35 days and 17 hours, it's the longest film ever made. The trailer is a mere 7 hours and 20 minutes. Anthony Burgess, the Parkland shooting hero who shielded his classmates with his body, legally owns the rights to the shooter's name, preventing the shooter from granting interviews or making arrangements with film producers or authors without Burgess' permission. There's a fish that if you eat too much of it will give you a type of diarrhea called chirioria. There's something called the Minnesota Project. In World War II, 36 conscientious objectors semi-starved to gain insights into its effects. When Depeche Mode's frontman Dave Gahan was 6 months old, his Malaysian father Len abandoned his family. 9 years later, Len returned home and would often visit his family home for a year before suddenly abandoning his family once again, this time forever. Evel Knievel was fired from his mining job after high school for attempting a motorcycle-type wheelie in a large earth mover, but accidentally hit a main power line, knocking out power to Butte, Montana. Most US drinkers underestimate the minimum DUI fine and jail time penalty in their state, which may make them more likely to drive under the influence. In 1941, a 73-year-old Nepali activist named Yagmaya Nupane led 67 of her followers, including women and children, in a mass offing by jumping into a river. This was done to protest Nepal's brutal dictatorship. None of them were ever found. The news of Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay's successful ascent of Everest in 1953 was one of the last major news events delivered to the world by Runner. The iPad was in development long before the iPhone, despite officially releasing 3 years after the iPhone. To dispel suspicions his product was low quality, Nathan Handwerker of Nathan's Famous hired white-jacketed college students to stand in front of his stand munching hot dogs to make customers think that the dogs must be healthy if doctors are eating them. Actress Emily Lloyd turned down the lead in Pretty Woman to star in Mermaids, but was later recast, curbing a promising career. Steven Spielberg originally requested to use M&Ms for E.T., but Mars responded saying that they needed to see the script before agreeing. Not wanting to share anything about the movie, Spielberg switched to Reese's Pieces. Jim Morrison originally wrote the end about his breakup with his girlfriend. It evolved through months of performance into a much longer 12-minute version that we know today. James Pratt and John Smith, two British men, in November of 1835 became the last people to be executed for homosexuality in England. Tetsuya Ishida from 1973 to 2005 was a Japanese painter who was known for surreal works showing boys and men fused with machines and urban life. His art explores isolation, consumerism, work stress, and the monotony of modern city living. Olga Hepnarova from 1951 to 1975 was a Czech mass who killed 8 people by driving a truck into a crowd in Prague. She was executed in 1975 and was the last woman to be executed in Czechoslovakia. The country of Suriname isn't connected by roads with its neighboring countries. If you travel by car, you can only enter the country by ferry. In the 1980s, donut shops in Southern California started using pink-colored boxes because they were cheaper than plain white boxes due to there being a large amount of leftover pink-dyed cardboard stock just sitting around. It was taking up warehouse space at restaurant supply company Wesco. In 1967, the Prime Minister of Albania declared the country the world's first atheist state, banning all religion. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has a YouTube playlist of tsunami simulations. A contrarium is a word that can have two opposite valid meanings. For example, cleave, to split something and also to hold on to something. Or another example is bolt, to affix something and also to get away. There are many others. The lowest temperature ever directly recorded on Earth was minus 89.2 degrees Celsius or minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It was measured at the then Soviet Vostok Station in Antarctica on July 21, 1983. Betruria is the passing of red or pink urine after eating beetroots or foods colored with beetroot extract. The Arabian Desert was once a lush green savanna that supported large lakes and abundant wildlife. While it's well known that the Sahara would go through wet and dry periods, there's also now strong evidence that this was also happening on the Arabian Peninsula. Lee Greenwood, singer and writer of God Bless the USA, wrote a Canadian version called God Bless Canada. The music is identical with a few changes to the lyrics. When Target department stores expanded into Canada in 2013, they used the theme song to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood for their ad campaign. It was the first time the producers of Mr. Rogers let the song be used in a commercial. And that's it. Let me know what you guys thought of this or which fact you found the most interesting. Leave a like and subscribe because you won't want to miss what's next.